You're with the Breaker-Leggers,
and we're in Northampton at the Royal and Derngate Theatre
to see the play Rules for Living.
So stay tuned to find out how many legs,
Whether it's break a leg
or leg it. Before you go any further,
to make sure you've always got your finger on the theatrical
for
pulse,
theatre news, reviews and interviews,
hit the subscribe button now.
Rules for Living. What do we know about this?
So it's written by Sam Holcroft and it's been directed by Simon Godwin. Simon has a massive amount of credits to his name. I'm just looking through a few of them, shows that he's been at the National. He directed The Bow Stratagem a few years ago.
Man and Superman?
Yes, starring Ray Fiennes, I believe. So some great credits. Also at the Royal Court, he's done a load there, but we've never seen anything he's done. So that'll be exciting to see.
The piece premiered at the National Theatre in 2015, and this is a brand new touring production.
It is indeed. It tells the story of an extended family gathering, and that causes some sparks over dinner. That's
Is it?
a bit familiar, isn't it?
Is it set at a birthday party?
I believe this one's at Christmas, but
Okay.
it's Jesus' birthday.
So hopefully there's not cake, because we've seen a lot of cake destroyed at these family gatherings.
Yeah,
it's quite
I
popular.
am coming to kind of despair over these family gatherings gone wrong type plays. We saw Apologia recently, which you can see our review of just there, which was a great example of that. But
Is a cow on a hot tin roof also has a cake?
You can see our review for that as well. Also the same setting. The Whip Hand recently. Oh, that was set in a birthday party gathering family drama.
Could it just be that it generates really good drama? That's why. Really good writing.
Hopefully, but this one is a comedy, so at least we'll get a few laughs, which were sadly lacking in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. In the cast is Carlyss. Carlyss is playing the character of Carrie, and we saw her playing the lead role of Rita in Groundhog Day. Yeah, the musical at the Old Vic. About a year or so ago, that went over to Broadway. Didn't take the original cast with them, apart from Andy Carr. But Tim Minchin did say at the Olivier Awards that he's coming back to these shores.
Yes, he almost made a promise. I think he said something like he'll do what he can to get it back over here, back into the West End. So hopefully you'll be able to see it. 'Cause it had a limited run.
It did.
At the Old Vic.
At the Old Vic. And maybe Carlyss will be back in the cast. Here's hoping. No idea how long this piece is. No idea if there's an interval. So maybe we'll catch you then. Maybe we'll see you at the end. We'll stick around and see.
We're back, which means there is an interval, which means it is time for the Breaker-Leggers 30-second interval breakdown. Go! What do you think so far?
It's a fun romp. It has some nice touches. For me, it's rather disingenuous. I know it's theatre, but these characters are inflated to the point where they're just totally unbelievable. How about you? What are you thinking?
I kind of like it. I'm quite amused. It's got some interesting elements. It's almost a bit like a game, a rehearsal game, in terms of there are rules that the characters have to adhere to. So I'm intrigued as to what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I do feel like it's going somewhere else into. So we've come to the end of Rules for Living here at the Northampton Royal and Derngate. What did you think of that?
I really liked it, actually. It's something quite different in terms of a domestic bust up, and boy did it bust up come the end. I think it's possibly one of the best executed crescendos I've seen in terms of domestics. I've seen them quite often, but they're sometimes quite small. This one was quite epic, and I was quite on the edge as to where it went. I thought the characters were really strong. Having the rules that they had to abide by did add a different element to each of the characters and their interaction. I don't know how well I thought it played out and panned along in that sense, but it did add a different dynamic, and I think I was smiling, I was amused throughout the whole thing. How about you?
I would disagree. I would say there's nothing new here. You say that, you thought it was different. I found it very formulaic. Get people at a dinner party, get strong characters in a room together, watch the sparks fly. For me, it's something that I've seen done so many times before, and I keep going on about this. I thought that if you're looking for a groundbreaking piece of theatre, bringing new ideas and new dimensions to a piece of work, I don't think this is it.
No, but it is enjoyable, and I've got to say, it is done in a different way. I think there is actually a bit in the programme about how the history of this kind of domestic bust-ups. So it knows that it's not new, but it is done in a different way. And I think that's almost the cleverness in the writing, is to how do you make a domestic new and interesting, or from a different angle. And I think they do get a different angle, and this is enjoyable. Not bored at any point. No,
I would go so far as to say it was engaging. I'd go so far as to say it was, it plodded along fairly well. The 2 hours felt like 2 hours, but they were an enjoyable 2 hours. There was at no point I was thinking, I wish this was over anytime soon, but there was no right hook for me. There was no defining, this is a genre defining piece. I think if I was going to approach this as a playwright and I was going to set out to do a domestic setting, explosion piece, I would want to make it the best one there is. I would want to put it ahead of the game when it comes to, and offer something totally different, so people can say, yes, we've seen this before, but I'm going to set the bar, and I don't think this has set the bar.
Whereas I feel completely the opposite. I felt as if they did do something different, and I think it's very subjective as to how the bar is set or whether the bar has been achieved. I think for a regular theatre goer, I think this is an absolute hoot and an absolutely fun time. The audience were having a great time. I'd say my only criticism was early on, some of the laughs were ploughed through. It got better, I felt, as it went on. A particular mention to a fantastic part is it Jane Booker?
Yes, Jane Booker playing the role of Edith, the mother.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, she put me in the mind of her comic timing was much like Patricia Routledge's in Keeping Up Appearances. Perfectly timed, bang on point, never too hammy. Some of the other characters were unbelievable, but something sat really right with me. I enjoyed her performance.
Yeah, extremely naturalistic, not pushing off, just being the character exactly as written. Almost the less she did, the more real it was, and the funnier it was. She is an absolute joy to watch. I'd go back and watch her in anything.
I bet you're wondering how many legs we're going to give this piece.
Well, for Rules for Living, we are going to give 3! A 3 right down the middle. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was an absolute hoot. I think if you do get to go and see it, you wouldn't have a good time there. It's quite enjoyable.
You wouldn't have a good time, is what you just said.
Oh, is that a double negative in there?
You wouldn't have a good time.
You wouldn't
you would hate it.
Let's confuse you a little bit more. You would have a great time. I think you would have a laugh. It's not perfect. The performances, the piece is asking a lot from its performers to try and get some of the parts to be natural.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where it falls apart a little bit.
Yeah, I found it caricaturish at times. There's no naturality in some of the performances, and that for me was a real, you enter that setting, you want to at least be believable, and it wasn't at times.
Some characters had an easier job of that. I think the father and the mother could play that really well.
Yes.
Some of the others you had to really pull out the bag to make it believable, but I thought it worked well as a piece.
That's what we thought.
Let us know what you think.
Like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter. We're the Breaker Leggers, and we'll catch you again soon.
Bye.